Long ago, in a land of golden kings, there lived a poor woman named Sarah. She owned nothing. No land, no husband, no fine clothes. But she had a baby boy, and her heart was full of faith. She lived in a small clay house beside the wheat fields. Every morning she worked for rich men, bending low under the sun to gather grain. At night she came home tired. But when she looked at her son, her pain disappeared. She would whisper, "My baby, we are poor in silver but rich in love. The world may not know your name, but God does. He will watch you when I cannot." Her baby smiled often, as if he could already hear heaven's voice. When the wind blew through the door, Sarah believed angels were passing by, but far away in the royal palace, King Zira sat restless on his golden throne. He had everything, power, soldiers, and endless riches, yet he feared losing it all. One day, an old priest entered the hall, bowed low, and said, "My lord, I bring a message from God. A child has been born in your land, poor but chosen. One day he will be greater than you. He will rule with mercy and faith." The king's eyes darkened. "How can a poor woman's child take my crown? How can a boy from the dust rise above gold?" The priest lowered his head. "Because God crowns hearts, not heads, and no man can stop what he has chosen." The king shouted, "Enough! Find this child. End this prophecy before it takes my power." That night, under a silver moon, his soldiers rode quietly through the sleeping villages. They found a small clay house by the fields. Inside, the woman and her baby were asleep. A dim candle burned beside them. Sarah's arm rested over the child, her face peaceful after a long day of work. The soldiers looked at the baby. Soft skin, gentle breath. One whispered, "He looks innocent." Another replied coldly. The king gave an order. "Take him." They lifted the baby from her arms, without waking her. Outside, the river flowed quietly, reflecting the moonlight. They placed the baby in a small wooden box, sealed it, and pushed it into the water. The box floated away, rocking gently like a cradle. Moments later, Sarah woke. Her arms were empty. She called her son's name once, twice. No answer. She ran outside barefoot, her cries echoing through the dark. "My God, my baby, don't take him from me. If this is your plan, please let the river be his road to life, not death." Her tears touched the water, and the river carried the box farther, as if obeying her prayer. Miles away, a farmer named Daniel saw the box caught between the reeds. He opened it and found a baby smiling inside. Daniel lifted him gently and whispered, "Lord, you sent him to me. I will raise him as my own. He shall be called Bahrin Michael, the child of your promise." And under the stars, the river glowed softly, because heaven had begun. Years passed like quiet seasons, and the baby from the river became a strong young man. Bahrin Michael grew up under the care of Daniel, the farmer who had found him. Their small home was poor, but full of peace. Every day Daniel would tell him, "My son, remember, God gave you life twice, once through birth, and once through mercy. Never forget where you came from." Bahrin never forgot. He worked in the fields, shared his bread with strangers, and prayed before every meal. He was kind to everyone, even to those who mocked his poverty. People said, "Where Bahrin walks, blessings follow." There is light in his words and peace in his heart. One warm evening, the sound of hooves filled the air. King Zira was traveling through the countryside with his men. He had grown older, his hair touched with gray, but his eyes still carried pride. He remembered the prophecy from long ago, the priest's words that had once filled him with fear. A poor woman's son will rise above the throne. Though many years had passed, he still thought of that child and sometimes saw him in his dreams. As night fell, the king saw a small house by the fields. He remembered the farmer who had once helped him in his youth. "Let us rest here tonight," the king said. "Old friends make a weary heart young again." Daniel was surprised but happy. He bowed deeply. "My lord, my home is small, but my welcome is great. Please, come in." The king smiled. "I come as a friend tonight, not a ruler. Let us sit and remember simpler days." They sat near the fire and spoke of old times. Then Bahrin entered quietly. carrying bread and water. The firelight touched his face, calm, kind, and full of grace. The king stared at him for a moment. "Who is this young man?" he asked. Daniel smiled proudly. "He is my son, Bahrin. God sent him to me from the river when I had nothing. He is my greatest blessing." The king studied him closely. Something in Bahrin's eyes made him feel peace. "Your son is special, Daniel. He has the look of destiny." Later that night, the king sighed deeply. "My friend, I forgot to send an important letter before leaving the palace. Can your son deliver it for me? He looks strong and trustworthy." Daniel nodded. "He will go at once, my king. He never breaks a promise." The king smiled faintly. "Good. Give this to the queen. Do not open it. It is for her eyes only." Bahrin bowed. "I will obey, my lord." Before sunrise, he began his journey. The road was quiet, the air still. Halfway through the valley, a soft light appeared ahead. Bright, warm, and gentle. A man dressed in white stood before him. Bahrin stopped in awe. The man smiled kindly. "Do not be afraid," he said. "I am Michael, a messenger of God. You carry a letter from man, but heaven has written its own words inside." The angel touched the letter gently. The seal shimmered with light. "Go, child of the river," he said. "What man threw away God has chosen to raise?" The morning sun rose slowly as Bahrin Michael reached the palace gates. His clothes were dusty, his feet tired, but his heart was calm and full of peace. He held the sealed letter tightly in his hands, never once thinking of what miracle rested inside. When the guards saw the royal mark, they bowed and let him pass. He walked through the great doors of gold and marble, places he had never dreamed of seeing. When the queen received the letter, she broke the seal carefully and began to read aloud. Her voice trembled. The room grew silent. "Make Bahrin Daniel king. Give him all my riches. Let him marry my daughter. This is the will of the king." The queen gasped and covered her mouth. The royal mark was clear, the king's own seal. She whispered, "This is his writing. This is his signature." The servants fell to their knees. "Long live King Bahrin," they cried. "This is God's will." Bahrin stepped back in shock. "No, there must be a mistake," he said softly. "I am not worthy of this. I am only a farmer's son." But the queen came to him, tears in her eyes. "Child, heaven makes no mistakes. What God writes cannot be erased by man." That same day, the princess was brought to him. A gentle, kind woman who smiled through her tears. "If this is God's plan, I will obey it," she said. And before sunset, they were married. The people filled the streets with singing and joy, praising the God who lifts the humble and confuses the proud. Far from the palace, in the quiet of the desert, King Zerah grew weak and ill. He lay beneath the stars and whispered, "God, I see now. I tried to fight you, but your plan is stronger. I threw a child into the river, and you lifted him to my throne. Forgive me." Then he closed his eyes forever, his last breath carried by the wind. When the news reached the palace, Bahrin bowed his head and prayed, "May God forgive him," for even his cruelty became part of the miracle. Years passed. The kingdom flourished under Bahrin's kindness. He helped the poor, fed the hungry, and prayed every morning before he ruled. Yet his heart still carried one question. Who was I before the river? One day, while visiting the countryside, he saw an old woman selling small baskets beside the road. Her hands were weak, her eyes tired, but her face seemed familiar. He stopped and asked, "Mother, have we met before?" She looked at him and smiled sadly. "No, my king, but your voice, it sounds like my child's. I lost him many years ago when soldiers took him in the night. All I have left is this piece of cloth." She opened her bag and showed a torn blanket. Old, faded, but on the corner were 2 letters stitched in blue. B.M. Bahrin's heart stopped. He touched the cloth, tears filling his eyes. "Mother, it's me. Your prayers carried me down the river. God brought me back to you." She fell to her knees, weeping. He knelt beside her, held her close, and whispered, "You lost a son, but God gave you a king. Not for my glory,